All right. Okay. For real this time.
For real now.
Yep, for real.
For real now. We're alive!
Wait, we're live. We're in a full effect. And, we're geeking out about some things.
Yep.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome again to the General Geekery Podcast, the podcast where we like to geek out about all the things we like to geek about, whether we have some general ramblings going on or if we have a specific topic in mind. Today, we have the latter to talk about. We have a specific topic in mind. As always, I'm Donald Kaczynski with a hot cup of coffee in hand and caffeine flowing through my system. And with me, as always, is the always artistically awesome Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
And, well, I am not going to be taking the reign on this one. Hannah, you have, you decided on today's topic. I think it's only fair that, what are we talking about?
All right, so today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite books and its sequels. We're going to be talking about Ender's Game. So, Ender's Game, it was written by Orson Scott Card, and it is it says here on the cover of the old copy that I have, Hugo winner, New York Times best-selling author, Nebula winner. So, an awesome book by many accounts. It was originally a short story written for the August 1977 issue of Analog magazine, and later, Card expanded it into the novel that we have today. So, basically what the story is about is that there is, mankind is facing an impending attack by this alien race called they're called the Formics. They're like sort of insect-like creatures. In some of the earlier books, the sort of colloquial term for them is buggers, which is, there's some sort of weird connotations to that word nowadays, isn't there?
Yeah,
like the movie that came out a couple of years ago used Formics exclusively, and they didn't use the word buggers.
Well, I think it was because, like, I think buggers, like, lended itself to, like, kind of like a racial kind of issue.
Really?
So,
oh.
Maybe.
Well, in England, they always tell you, oh, bugger off.
Well, kind of, yeah, but I think it's just because, like, it was like a different race and everything like that, and like,
okay.
in most like alien like movies and like comics and novels and everything that I've seen, like generally, human military will refer to other races by like nicknames or something like that.
Yep.
Which is this. I've only read the first Ender's Game, and it is a very militaristic, almost set kind of novel.
Yeah.
So
it is all about. It's all about military training, basically battles in space, kind of like yeah.
So
kind of like Battlestar Galactica, I think, where they send out their crew people on Vipers, and they're going after this other race that they don't really understand.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they would use like terminology like that.
Yeah, exactly. So in this universe, it takes a long time to travel through space. So when you take off from somewhere, and let's say you're going from one planet to another, for you, it's only maybe a year. I don't really know. For you, it's a year's voyage. But by the time you get there, on your planet and the planet you're going to, like 30 years have passed since you left.
Whoa.
So that kind of stuff happens in later books as well, where somebody travels to a planet, and then they get there, and somebody else who they left behind has aged 15 years or so, and then they get on a ship and go to the same planet, and while the other person is waiting for them, they age 15 years.
What in the world?
So, yeah. So they basically see each other, and it's 15 years later, but on different timelines.
Okay, so it's different timelines. I was about to ask, like, are the people that are that travel between the ship, like, are they like are they put in like cryostasis or things like that, or? Oh, okay, no. They're not.
No.
Wow. All right.
No.
Okay.
So
that's a lot more to take in.
Yeah. So basically, if somebody sends out a call, there's one in one of the later books where somebody calls for a speaker to come and basically tell the story of someone who's died. It's like a ritual kind of thing. Okay. And so the speaker who comes, he gets the call immediately. He's like, okay, I'm going to go. And he goes on his voyage, and it's however long. It's like a couple months. But by the time he gets there, 20 years have passed since somebody called for the speaker. So...
Wow.
Yeah. But basically how this connects to Ender's Game, the first book, is that the people on Earth, I think it's about... I think it takes place in the late 22nd century. So, like, the 2190s, possibly.
Okay, I don't remember if they actually ever stated, like, a particular date.
Oh, maybe they did in later books or something?
They might have. I don't remember them doing one in the original Ender's Game, but I could be wrong, though. It's been many years since I read Ender's Game. Like it was one of my required readings for either high school or middle school, and I remember enjoying it very much. But unfortunately, I didn't have access to as many novels growing up as I did when I became a student in college.
Right. Yeah. So a fleet of these formics, right, have started flying towards Earth. And I forget what was the catalyst for this war, but basically the people on Earth know that the formics have taken off and there's this giant fleet coming after them, but they know it's not going to be here in until hundreds of years from now. So they're like, okay, we got to prepare. So we got to train soldiers. And so basically what it's about is they take young people and train them up in these battle schools to become basically the fleet commanders of the future. You know,
that is some military dystopia type stuff.
Yeah. So this is a story of, and there's a little bit of sort of genetic manipulation and selection as well, just a little bit, where it's kind of hinted at because.
Didn't they like affect something with like the birth rate?
Yes, you were really only allowed to have 2 kids unless they allowed you to have a third. For whatever reason. Okay. And there aren't very many thirds, so... And Ender is a third.
Our main protagonist.
Our main character, Ender, who his actual name is Andrew. His name is Andrew Wiggin.
What did they ever explain why they called him Ender? I forget.
Yes, because his older sister, Valentine, couldn't pronounce his name, Andrew, and it sounded like Ender.
Huh.
So that was his nickname, but it ended up becoming his actual name.
So it's always funny whenever that happens.
Yeah. And the name actually has some meaning as well, which I'll get to. But basically, there's 3 of the Wiggin children. There's Peter Wiggin, who he actually wasn't allowed to go to battle school because he was too violent, basically. He had too many violent tendencies, and he was a sadist. He tortured animals and stuff, and he bullied his younger siblings and everything. Oh, so too violent for the military, basically. Because he had no control.
Yeah,
really.
And if the military can't control you to follow orders and things like that, it can cause many problems down the road. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they were basically like, okay, it will be impossible to get you to do what we want because you're just such a violent little shit, basically. And then the second kid is Valentine, and they went a little bit too far in the pacifying stuff, so she's a lot more peaceful and timid. And they're like, okay, now she's not violent enough. She's too peaceful and nurturing to do this job, and so they're like, okay.
So that's why they needed a third.
Yeah, they were like, okay. The 2 parents, I forget what their names are, but they had really good genetics. They were both really smart, I think, and stuff. So their children are all genius level. And so okay, you're allowed to have a third because we think we've got something here, but it just has to be the median. It has to be the middle between Peter in Valentine.
Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. So
my God.
So that's where Ender comes from. And so he ends up getting recruited for the what did I call it again?
The battle school.
The battle school. And so he's a quiet, sensitive boy who he is really good at. Like, he's a very, very strategic, tactical mind, and he's very good at
strategy.
At strategy, and he's very good at beating people at anything, really.
Remind me never to ask him to play a game of chess with me.
Yeah, no, exactly, yeah. So he's, like, the best, but he doesn't feel good about it. Like, he doesn't like it. You know, like, he's very, very good at all this stuff, but he's like, well, it's necessary. Like, when he's on the shuttle to go to the battle school, some random kid kept on, like, whacking him in the head from behind. Because he was a third, basically.
Okay.
Third. And so he's like, okay, if I keep on letting this person hit me in the head without reacting, everybody's going to start hitting me in the head and thinking that they can get away with it.
Oh, that's right. And, doesn't he beat him within an inch of his life?
Well, yeah, oh yeah, that's an even better example. At school, yeah, he gets like attacked by these people as well, and yeah, he just beats the shit out of them, and then he's like, well, I have to. It was like,
yeah, if I remember right, I think his exact words were, if I since I deal with this now, it'll become less of a problem later.
Yeah. It was,
because I remember that moment. I remember that moment happening. And I was like,
yeah,
like, dude, I was like,
yeah,
Ender, dang, man,
yeah. It's where is it? Okay,
it had to have happened early on.
Yeah, it's in the very first chapter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, we Hannah has the book with her.
Yeah, I do.
So we're checking for reference.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, he's got this sort of, there's no senseless violence. It's always reasoned out. Like,
all right.
Basically it's never a reactionary.
There's always a purpose.
It's never impulsive. There's always a reason why he does this. And I actually kind of remember what it is, even though I can't find it. Oh, here it is. So there's like 3 people who have sort of surrounded him, these kids at the school. And, yeah, it, so, and the kid, like, knocks him down, I think. Or wait. Oh, yeah. So it says like, to keep them from taking him in a pack tomorrow, I have to win this now and for all time, or I'll fight it every day and it will get worse and worse. So yeah, he basically knocks this kid over, and then he could have just walked away, but he doesn't. He like keeps on beating at him.
Into submission.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, okay, so I won today, but now I have to keep going as I have to win for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and the next day, so that they will never bother me again, basically. And, you know, so, and it's kind of one of those things where, you know, like if his older brother Peter had done that,
yeah,
Peter would have enjoyed it, and he would have, like, it would have been the, like, inflicting the pain would have been the great thing.
He would have been laughing maniacally.
Yeah, laughing maniacally, but no, like Ender's different. So he's capable of doing things that Peter would do. Like, he beats this kid.
But as you said, he doesn't. But as you said, he doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, and he doesn't enjoy it, and it's just like one of those things. It's like, well, it was necessary for my preservation, basically. And that theme kind of follows throughout the entire book, where it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, there's this kid at the battle school who, he ends up actually beating this kid so badly that the kid dies.
That's right.
Yeah, and so there's just stuff like that, and it just keeps on. It keeps on escalating throughout. There's basically in this military in this school, they have them fight these battles in null gravity.
Right. They're the simulations, right?
Simulations, yeah. Well, it's not simulations, but yeah, it's in a.
Against one. Right.
Yeah, against
right,
one
right.
another. It's in a giant, null gravity chamber, and he's really good at this stuff at organizing all of his soldiers in his mock army, kind of. It's just like battle games, basically.
Right.
It's all under the guise of a game. It's like, okay, here's a game that we play, and it's like a competition. You got to try, and you and your army have to beat this other army and get through the enemy's gate, basically. You start at opposite ends, and then you have to try and get somebody through there.
It's a good old game of capture the flag.
Yeah, exactly. And he is good at twisting things onto its head and looking at it in a different way. Like, everybody has been when they go into the null gravity chamber, they sort of stay in the same orientation as they were in the hallway.
Right.
But so they'll always be like, if they come in this way, they'll be facing up this way the whole time. They'll think of this direction as up.
Okay.
But Ender comes up with this thing where he figures, okay, so once you're in null gravity, it doesn't matter what it's like out in the corridor. You could be facing any direction or come from any direction. And so there's this I guess, catchphrase that his army develops. That's the enemy gate is down.
Okay.
Because if you basically what they would do is they would like a what do you call it? Like a jungle gym.
Right.
They would launch themselves off of the door frame and just go torpedoing down towards the enemy people.
Full on wave.
Yep, exactly. So instead of just it's really cool how it's described and everything, that when you're in null gravity, it doesn't really, you have to look at things from a different perspective and all that, and his mind just works that way.
I always love characters like that they're more perceptive than everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're able to pick things up quicker, especially those that have such sense of guilt and everything they do and things like that. Ender's, I think, probably one of the best written characters for that type of character. With a high intelligence, everything like that, but he's always struggling with the morally correct choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's also just basically in this battle school, part of what they do is they keep on just stacking the odds against him just to see how much he can take, sort of. So when he gets his own army, because he has a lot of potential.
Right.
When he gets his own army, they basically pit his army against two other armies. They have them doing a battle every day, and then eventually they end up having them do two battles in a day. They all get home from get back to their barracks from a battle, and there's already a notification that go back to the battle room, you have another one, and they're already exhausted, and and
that's really starts affecting him.
Yeah, it does. It starts to they're just it's almost like sleep deprivation torture and stuff like that, where it's just you're just so tired that you start to you're just okay, I just gotta do this thing, and then I can stop, and
especially when your body is just low on sleep and everything, you will do anything just to make sure you can rest.
Yeah, exactly. And so they eventually take him out of battle school, and they sort of start him on simulations of what it would be like fighting a space battle with ships.
Right.
So he's basically got the headset, and he's commanding different fleets, and some of his fellow classmates who also had a lot of potential are part of this simulation as well.
All right.
And spoilers here. I don't know if anybody is...
I'll put a spoiler alert.
Sure, yeah. You know how I feel about spoilers. If you
saw the last episode.
I don't like to cause spoilers for other people. But what ends up happening is their last simulation that they do is a battle above a planet, and they've got all their ships. He's got his classmates in other what do you call them? Like other rooms with their headsets, and they are in control of different fleets as well.
Right.
And basically there's this weapon. I think it's called the Little Doctor. It's basically a planet killer.
Oof.
And so when they're up above the planet, like doing all this military stuff, and I think that they're getting destroyed or whatever, but
they're getting overwhelmed in this scenario.
Yeah. I think somebody harkens back to that. The enemy gate is down, and everyone's kind of like, haha, that's funny. Yeah. And then Ender basically, he just like pushes the button, and the Little Doctor goes down to destroy this planet. And the people who are like running the examination, who are running this simulation and everything, they start like crying and cheering and like hugging each other and all this stuff, and he's just like, what the heck? Like, yeah, I guess I passed your test, like, and then it's revealed to him that he's been fighting actual space battles for months, and and that he's been basically, he didn't know this, but he was the commander of Earth's fleet that was fighting its way toward the Formic homeworld. That he just basically nuked their planet and committed
mass genocide.
But yeah, it's called xenocide, like the murder of an alien species. Completely wiped them out. And he thought it was a test for a game.
I think that might be one of the greatest plot twists ever in a novel. Like,
so great.
Like the moment when you read on the page with like you see like the instructors cheering, everything like that, you're like, something's not right.
Yeah.
And then when that metaphorical like nuke drops on him.
Yeah, exactly.
It drops on all of you, and you start connecting all the pieces from like the past and from like all the past chapters, like all the experiences, and it's just like, wow. Yeah,
and he's just a kid who, and he like basically, I'm trying to find this.
While you find that, I can pretty much relate like my experience when I first read that. So like when I think I first read this book back when I was in 8th grade in middle school, or I was a freshman in high school. But like I had read like some novels, some books that always made me question like certain things, like gang novels and things like that, like Outsider, Scorpions, like all that. But when we went to Ender's Game, and I was like, so this is like a military novel and things like that. Yeah. But then when it reached that moment, and the impact really hit me, because I was one of the few students like in like that was I went to a public school, unfortunately, so like not a lot of kids were like taking this seriously. But when I read that moment, I was like, holy shit. That is such a high stakes like thing. Yeah. And he had no idea. And when you make that, and when you connect the dots from like the past thing, like he single-handedly won the war at the cost of so many of his own men, and killed off an entire race.
Yes, basically, and
that just all comes down at once.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like he has all of the, like, he has the skills that Peter has, but he has Valentine's sensitivity and like empathy and all of that. So and basically, if they had told him what was happening, he wouldn't have been able to do it.
And I think that they knew that.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did.
Ever since. Ever since when they first found out, like, with Ender beating the kid and, like, they saw the potential.
The one that he ended up killing.
They never told him about that.
No, they didn't tell him that the kid had died either.
They never told him, that's right.
Yeah, because the kid just collapsed, and he was like, okay, I guess it's done. And then they were like, oh, well, we sent him home. We sent him back to Spain or whatever.
Exactly. Like,
and
wow.
they didn't tell him that he was dead. He kind of figured it out eventually, but... Yeah, they're like, okay, if this kid knows that something's real, he's not gonna do it.
Yeah, and wasn't he trying to get out of, like, the school at that point anyway? So, like, in that final battle, like, he was just doing everything he could just so, like...
Exactly. They're like, yeah, just keep fighting battles. It's like, okay, if I fight this battle and I win, does that mean I get to leave?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, in his mind, he just wanted to be done with it.
When you win, you're done with it and you can finally rest. And it's like, oh, fine. Like, if he hadn't done that, what do you think? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know what would have happened if
it was at that moment, like, before that battle, he reached his breaking point.
Yeah, exactly.
And so basically in his mind he was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm just going to do everything I can to win it as recklessly as possible to prove that I am not capable.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he was trying to, like, prove that he
That's how it came across as me.
Right, that he wasn't capable of making a rational decision because he's just like, you know what? Screw it. Send the nuke, you know?
And it totally turned around on him. And honestly, like, that was he broke after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have that actually right here. This is one of my favorite moments in the book. It's just so sad.
All right, hold on. I'm going to move the mic a little bit closer.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So they come and find him in his quarters. He's just been sleeping since, So they've been playing out the videos on Earth all day, all night since the battle yesterday. Yesterday? He had slept through until the next day. You're a hero, Ender. They've seen what you did, you and the others. I don't think there's a government on Earth that hasn't voted you the highest medal. I killed them all, didn't I? Ender asked. All who? Asked Graf. The buggers? That was the idea. Mazer leaned in close. That's what the war was for. All their queens. So I killed all their children. All of everything. They decided that when they attacked us. It wasn't your fault. It was what had to happen. Ender grabbed Mazer's uniform and hung onto it, pulling him down so they were face to face. I didn't want to kill them all. I didn't want to kill anybody. I'm not a killer. You didn't want me, you bastards. You wanted Peter, but you made me do it. You tricked me into it. He was crying. He was out of control. Of course we tricked you into it. That's the whole point, said Graf. If it had been a trick, you couldn't have done it. So.
Yep. That, like, God damn.
You're welcome.
Like, that's when the nightmare fully catches up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he spends the rest of his life basically trying to prevent other genocides from happening. Like the second book, The Speaker of the Dead.
Right.
He is the speaker for the dead. That's like his job that he does. Is he goes around to different planets. Because basically, he's like, in The Speaker for the Dead, I think he's like in his 30s.
Okay.
But it's been hundreds of years on Earth because he's been traveling through space.
Yes, centuries have passed.
Centuries have passed. Him and Valentine have been traveling together, basically.
Oh, that's right. His sister went with him.
Yeah, because he's like, I want to just leave the world behind, and I want to go far enough into the future that people don't recognize me, basically, because that's what they call me. They call me the Xenocide, basically. Yep. So he's been going to all these planets, speaking for these people who have passed away, kind of, because he's kind of like, okay, well, I caused so much death, and I want to be a voice for people who have died. Basically,
he's trying to find.
Yeah, he's trying to make atonement for that genocide that he committed, basically. And when he goes to a planet called Lusitania in Speaker for the Dead. Mm-hmm. And the next three books in the Ender quartet, it's a quintet depending on whether you think Ender in Exile is part of it, but okay. It's these three: The Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind, are the sequels to this, and they all take place on Lusitania, which is basically a human colony where these a bunch of Catholic missionaries from Portugal have gone to this planet that's occupied by these little alien creatures that they kind of look like pigs. They have like little snouts.
Okay.
And they call them the pequeninos, or the piggies.
Okay.
And he basically goes to speak for this man who, it seems like, even though there's been a really peaceful existence with the piggies, and they're all getting along, and the piggies love to talk to the humans and learn, and like the xenobiologists who are there who want to learn about their culture. It's all been amazing and really respectful. And then the main guy who is in contact with the piggies, he goes missing, and they find him on the edges of the forest, and he's been murdered, basically. Someone cut him open and like took out all of his intestines and spread them out like roots. And
dang,
that's my work. And so he's just there, and they're like, what happened? And they sort of are trying to figure out, they're like, did the piggies do this? Like, they're so peaceful. I can't believe that they would have done something like this. And they were like, no, we loved him. Like, he was the most honored among you to us and stuff. And it just doesn't make any sense. And so it's kind of about how they're trying to figure out what happened, because they don't deny that they did it, but
right,
they don't seem to have any animosity towards him or anything. And it's very weird. And it's basically just people from other planets hear about this, and they start to think, oh, well, these piggies, you know, they're murdering humans and they need to be annihilated. And so Ender's on this planet. He goes to the planet with the piggies.
Right.
And basically he's just like, okay, I'm going to try and figure this out and try and save this planet. Because they're like, basically they've decided, some people on Earth, they're like, okay, we're sending a ship and it's got a little doctor on board, and we're just going to blow up this planet. So Ender's on the planet, and he's sort of talking to this, like, the family of the xenobiologist who was killed and all this stuff, and trying to figure out what happened, and also trying to basically save these pequeninos from being wiped out by this little doctor that's coming.
Louise.
Yeah, and so that's what the three books are about. And there's a lot of other stuff involved. They are a lot more philosophical. There's a lot more, not so much military strategy. It's more like talking about what makes a life a life, and what makes a person, and just all this stuff like that. Like, it's not right to just blow up our problems, and we need to try and solve them by talking about it.
So it basically takes the event about what happened with what was the race from Ender's Game again?
Formix.
It took the moment that happened to the Fornix and basically like applied it, just like what could you have done to stop it?
Yeah, what could you have done differently? Could we have talked to the Formix instead, perhaps, you know, and figured it out? So it's basically Ender trying to atone for his mistake by keeping that same mistake from being made again and again. And by this point, it's hundreds of years have passed since then, so people don't know who he is exactly.
Right. Like,
only a few people. He's like, like he meets a woman on the planet, and who he ends up marrying, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and so she knows who he is and stuff, and all that. But yeah, it's just all about. It's all about different races and different peoples, and how can we exist together, and just lots of philosophical problems, which I find fascinating. A lot of people said that, well, Speaker for the Dead was a pretty pretty interesting to people, but some people got a little tuckered out with Xenocide and Children of the Mind. Like, they thought that they were way too long.
Okay.
You know, I enjoyed them, but...
Right.
So, if you want to know why the piggies disemboweled their favorite human, read Speaker for the Dead.
You're not going to go into detail about
No,
that? Okay,
no.
all right.
Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is it's this series that's sort of a parallel series to the Ender Saga. It's called the Shadow Saga.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because didn't the original author wanted to expand like the? No, it wasn't the original author.
Orson Scott Card?
Yeah, like didn't Orson like want to like expand like this, like the universe, like to explore it more?
Yes, he did. So this is basically what's going on Earth after Ender and Valentine have left, and it starts sort of with a parallel of what's going on in the battle school while Ender's there, but it's from the point of view of one of the kids who's in his army. Okay. The kid's name is Bean. That's the nickname that he got because he's so tiny.
Okay.
And so it kind of and besides Ender, he showed the most promise. He was this little tiny guy, but he was insanely smart, like annoyingly smart. And so in the Shadow Saga, it kind of gives his background a little bit. It starts with him homeless in Rotterdam, as an urchin, just trying to live off the streets and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
And yeah, because basically what we find out happened to him was that he escaped as an infant from a genetic engineering laboratory, where basically I think there was this couple from Greece who they wanted to have a baby, and the embryos, there were a ton of them that they had frozen, you know, and they were like, all right, so we'll keep these, and if we want another baby, we'll do, you know, but there's like 20 of them.
Okay.
And Bean is one of these. And there's a scientist who gets a hold of the embryos and he like alters them a little bit, and to have this genetic modification called Anton's key.
Okay.
And when Anton's key is turned, as they say, that's when you sort of that hyper intelligence kicks in, like Bean has. And so basically, what the guy did, I believe, I'm not quite sure. It's been a while since I read these, but he basically grew all of these embryos like in tanks, and they were all in this nursery in Rotterdam.
Okay.
And then somebody found out about it and tried to destroy them all. But little baby Bean, he survived because
the key was turned.
Because the key was turned, and he was way more intelligent than the rest of the kids. Like, he was maybe like 6 months old, but when this danger happened, he like crawled away to like the adjoining bathrooms and hid in the water tank of a toilet and was there for like days.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and so yeah, and he was found by this sister named Carlotta who took care of him after a while. And that was how he ended up going to the battle school, the command school, and so he's there. He's one of Ender's commanders during the
during the scenarios
during the battle over the Formic homeworld.
So he was there. Okay.
Yeah, he was there. He was one of his officers. Got basically, and he was the one who said the enemy gate is down thing. He was like, remember guys, the enemy gate is down. And in the book we realize that basically Bean kind of knows what they're doing, like how Ender's being manipulated, and he's kind of like, okay, that's the idea. They want him to blow up the homeworld, and he was like, how do I tell him to do this without letting it on? And then he's like, he says the thing like it's a joke. He's just like, the enemy gate is down, guys. And Ender just has like his beautiful mind moment where he's like, oh, you gotta drop the little doctor, and he does. So like Bean kind of sparked that. And so yeah, so the story that the saga continues as Bean is getting older. And it turns out that because of Anton's key, his mind or his brain and his body will never stop growing. So he's going to die prematurely. Like his life expectancy is like 25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And and then he and one of the other officers from Ender's fleet, like they fall in love and they want to have a family, but he's always got that sort of that shadow in his mind where he's like, well, I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to see them grow up because I'm going to die, basically. Like he's just gotten extremely tall, and like his mind works so fast. Like he's a genius, but it's killing him, basically.
Oh, man.
Because of this genetic thing. And they go and they meet the doctor who turned the key and everything. The doctor's name was Anton. Which is why Anton's key.
Had to be.
So, yeah. And so that's all of that stuff about Bean. And he kind of associates with Peter Wiggin a little bit, because Peter actually ends up becoming like this major political force on Earth. And he actually becomes something called the hegemon, which is some kind of like like one of the world leaders, basically.
May God have mercy on that planet.
At the age of like 14, he accomplishes this.
Oh, and, good Lord!
Yeah, like these Wiggin kids are out of control.
Stop them!
Yeah, and so it's kind of about that, about being sort of, the second book, the first book is called Ender's Shadow, and the second book is called Shadow of the Hegemon, where he's kind of assisting Peter and trying to keep him in line. And then there's another one called Shadow Puppets, which is the one where him and that woman... I keep on getting a call from work. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. It's not important, I hope.
Oh, I hope.
Yeah. And so that's basically what it's all like and what it's all about. And hold on. I have a surprise.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Hannah's looking something up.
I'm looking something up. Okay. I think, I took a photo of it yesterday. Because I don't actually own the book that this is in, but I...
Okay.
Okay, this is an excerpt from the beginning of a chapter from Shadow Puppets, which is the third book in the Shadow Saga about Bean.
All right.
So, here is what it says. 2. Pythian Legume at nowyousseeitnowyou.com from Graph Pilgrimage at Coleman.com regarding Aren't We Cute? I suppose you can be allowed to indulge your adolescent humor by using obvious pseudonyms like Pythian Legume, and I know this is a use-once identity, but really, it smacks of a careless insouciance that worries me. We can't afford to lose you or your traveling companion because you had to make a joke. So Pythian Legume is Bean.
Oh my God!
There you go.
We finally figured it out.
He's like one of the surviving embryos of this Greek couple who wanted to have more kids.
Wow!
And they call him Bean, which is a legume.
I was not expecting that. Okay.
Yeah. We were doing the last episode, and I knew we were doing Ender's Game next, and you were like, "Man, I gotta figure out what that is sometime." I'm like, you will.
Oh my God, you
will.
You.
So there we go. The mystery is solved.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a way. Wow.
Woo! Yeah, but this has rekindled how much I love these books, and I want to read them all again.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Like I've only read the first one. Even though I haven't read like the following one, I know like the impact this series has had, especially the first one. It's been placed under like one of like the greatest like novels ever made in the 20th century.
Yes, it's got to be one of my favorite books.
I can tell just from like how much like you were pouring your heart out over this episode.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It has everything.
So thank you, Hannah, for sharing your love of the Ender's Game series with us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Of course, like I'm usually more the person to like lead like stuff. So whenever you have a topic, like I just love, like, hearing your enthusiasm about, like, everything, like, that happens. Like, especially when we had, like, the dystopia conversation as well. Like, like, I know how passionate you can get.
Yep. It's very heavily veiled a lot of the time, how much I care, but...
Oh! Feel sad now.
No need to feel sad. It's just the way that I am. I hold things close to the vest, you know?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. But yeah, we finally figured out what Pythian Legume means.
I know.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I can put that in my mind and actually lock it away and keep it for safekeeping.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. the little genius.
You are as well. You are as well.
Oh, shucks.
But yeah, guys, if you guys haven't already, go read Ender's Game, and if you like Ender's Game, make sure to read its expanded universe, all the books associated with it. Ender's Game itself is
it's great standalone.
It's a great standalone if you just want a one and done thing. But if you feel compelled to read the rest of the series, by all means, go right for it.
Yeah,
you got the General Geekery podcast seal of approval on that.
Ka-ching!
Cha-ching! Sorry, that was a little bit too much. So, I think we can wrap it off on that.
Yeah, we can sign off, yeah.
Yeah, unless you got anything else to add to...
No. I have a special thing for our sign off, but other than that,
I'll let you lead the sign off.
Oh boy!
So thank you guys once again for listening into the General Geekery podcast and our Hannah's analysis into sharing her thoughts of the Ender's Game series, episode 14. Make sure to listen to us wherever podcasts can be listened to. We're on Spotify. We're on Spreaker. You can listen to us on YouTube at Anime Rev Productions. You can follow us on social media at General Geekery Podcast on Facebook, Gen Geek Podcast on Twitter.
Yes,
Twitter. I got it this time. And you can also follow us on Instagram at General Geekery.
Yep.
Hannah, where can they catch you at?
Well, you can catch me on Mondays at 7:30 at Twitch TV.loadeddiceadventures Twitch.tv/loadeddiceadventures, where me and my party roll some dice every week. And you can also find me on Instagram at Pythian Legume.
Oh, I'm so glad we finally know what that is.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Where can they find you, Donald?
They can find me on social media at Twitter, Instagram, and you can also check me out at twitch.tv at RyuzakiMK7. That's pretty much it from us right now. So, Hannah?
Yep.
Please.
Always remember, keep your geek on, and the enemy gate is down.
The enemy gate is down. Clink, clink.
Clink, clink.
Later, guys.
Bye.